You thought love would be your refuge. You thought she would stand by you when the storms came, when your hands bled and your dreams burned at both ends. But look at you now, a man who built empires yet couldn't keep a single heart. She didn't destroy you with fire or fury. She did it with silence, with small tests, with the soft weight of her disapproval. This is the brutal truth. A woman doesn't need to fight you to take everything. She only needs you to surrender. Your time, your purpose, your crown. You believed that sacrifice would earn you love. You believed that devotion was the currency of loyalty. But while you were building her castle, she was building her exit. What does it feel like, brother, to look at your own hands and realize you carved your own downfall? What does it feel like to wake up in the ruins of everything you once believed was unshakable? Machiavelli once wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." And this, brother, is where most men fall. You believed her smile meant safety. You thought her gentle nods were proof of devotion. But you never saw the game beneath the surface. Machiavelli warned us that the world is not ruled by sincerity. It is ruled by perception, by strength, by the unspoken dance of power. He wrote for princes, for rulers, for men who understood that affection without respect is meaningless. And yet here you are, a man who mastered business strategies, but never mastered the strategy of the heart. You built contracts, negotiated deals, and outsmarted competitors. But when it came to her, you dropped your guard. You believed kindness would win her loyalty. You believed transparency would earn her respect. Machiavelli would have laughed at this. "It is much safer to be feared than loved," he said, "if one cannot be both." He wasn't speaking of cruelty. He was speaking of strength, of the kind of unshakable frame that commands respect because it cannot be moved. A man who does not test is a man who will be tested. And when tested by a woman who knows her power, most men crumble. Machiavelli saw it centuries ago. Women, like courtiers, are not drawn to weakness. They are drawn to presence, to certainty, to the man who holds his ground when storms rage. And the entrepreneur who forgets this, the man who tries to buy love with devotion, will lose both love and power. So I ask you, are you ready to see how your illusions betrayed you? Are you ready to hear the first brutal truth? You thought love was about giving everything. You thought the measure of a man's worth was in how much he could sacrifice. That's the first illusion, and it's the one that breaks men in silence. Women don't love you for your sacrifices. They love the image of strength you project, the unshakable presence they can't fully grasp. The moment you bend to please, the moment you trade your spine for approval, you're no longer a man in her eyes. You're a resource, a tool, a servant. You think she wanted your gifts, your time, your loyalty? No. She wanted to see if you could stand without her applause. She wanted to feel your gravity, not your need. And when you offered her everything, every ounce of your time, every dream, every late-night hour of planning and building, you handed her the keys to your soul. You believed that would make her stay. But how can a woman respect what she already owns? This is the brutal truth most men never hear. Women are not attracted to the man who gives endlessly. They are drawn to the man who can walk away, the man who chooses them, but doesn't need them. When you surrendered your boundaries, you didn't buy her loyalty. You killed her desire. Machiavelli warned, "A prince who is not feared will not be respected." And while fear here doesn't mean terror, it means unshakable authority, the quiet strength of a man who doesn't bend for validation. When you tried to be soft, endlessly available, and eager to please, you thought you were showing love. What you were really showing was insecurity, and insecurity is the death of attraction. The first illusion to shatter is this: she does not love you for what you give. She loves you for what you refuse to give. She respects the man who has edges, the man who can say no, the man who is willing to lose her rather than lose himself. You have been taught that a good man bends, but that's a lie sold to you by a world that wants you obedient. not powerful. Look at your life. Look at the business you built. It wasn't built by bending. It was built by standing firm, by facing risk, by walking into the fire alone. And yet, in love, you became something else. A man who feared silence, who feared disapproval, who feared being left. Brother, understand this. Love built on fear of loss is not love. It is bondage. You didn't love her. You loved the reflection of yourself you thought you saw in her eyes. The first mask has been torn off. Now, are you ready for the story of the man who gave everything and lost it all? He was not just any man. He was an entrepreneur, the kind who carved his future with bloodied hands and sleepless nights. From nothing, he built something. A business, a vision, a name whispered with respect. But even lions can be tamed when they forget their own teeth. And she came like a soft breeze, not a storm. She smiled, listened, and whispered the words every man longs to hear. You're different. You're my everything. He believed her. Why wouldn't he? After all, he had conquered the world of numbers and contracts. He thought love was the final mountain, the one he could climb with the same persistence that built his empire. And so he gave. He gave her the keys to his home, his schedule, his soul. He started to measure his days not by profits or milestones, but by her moods. When she smiled, he felt invincible. When she was cold, he felt lost. He canceled meetings just to reassure her. He delayed projects to keep her calm. Slowly, he wasn't building a business anymore. He was building a cage. You've seen men like him. Maybe you are him. He paid for vacations, bought her the car she casually mentioned, funded the life she dreamed of. Not because she asked, but because he feared losing her. And yet, the more he gave, the more distant she became. One evening he came home early, hoping to surprise her. The lights were on, but something was off. A coldness in the air, an unfamiliar silence. She sat there, suitcase packed. Her eyes weren't angry, they were indifferent, and that was worse than any rage. I just don't feel it anymore, she said. No explanation, no gratitude for the years he poured into her, just absence, as if all his sacrifices meant nothing. He begged. He tried to understand. He offered more money, more time, more of himself. But it was too late. She was gone. Not just from his house, but from the pedestal where he had placed his soul. And when the dust settled, he looked around and saw the wreckage. A business neglected, friendships forgotten, a body drained, a spirit broken. All for what? For a woman who respected him less every time he put her above his mission. This is not a unique story. It is a pattern. Men lose everything not because women are cruel, but because they hand over their power willingly, thinking love is bought with self-erasure. Does this sound like your story? Does it hurt to see yourself in this man? Good. Because pain is the only teacher men truly listen to. Now let's pull back the curtain even further, to see why women behave this way, and why it's not about them, but about you. She is not the storm that breaks you. She is the wind that quietly tests the strength of your walls. She doesn't strike directly. She erodes. She doesn't need to argue. She simply withdraws and watches what you do with the silence. Women are not, by nature, cruel, but they are, by instinct, testers. Just as nature tests every tree with wind and rain, just as the sea tests every ship with waves, a woman tests the man she is with, not consciously, but instinctively. She is searching for one question. Are you unshakable? If you fold at her first sign of disapproval, she doesn't hate you. She simply sees that you cannot hold your ground. And if you can't hold your ground against her, how will you hold your ground against the world? Machiavelli warned rulers, a prince who is not feared will not be respected. This principle isn't about violence or cruelty. It's about frame. The man who can stand firm without explanation, who doesn't flinch under emotional storms, is the man who commands respect. Not because he is domineering, but because he is sovereign. Imagine the entrepreneur again, At first, she adored his drive, his fire, but as he bent himself to please her, as he canceled meetings, let go of his discipline, and made her the center of his universe, she began to see something terrifying. His life no longer had gravity of its own. His energy no longer pulled her in. He became like soft clay, moldable, predictable, safe. And what is safe to a woman's heart often becomes invisible. Women do not desire storms. They desire anchors. They crave the man who can remain the mountain, unmoved by the shifting weather of emotions. Because deep down she knows that life is chaos, and if she is with a man who wavers at her every sigh, how can he face the real battles outside their walls? This is not about hating women. It is about understanding their nature, their unconscious need for strength. She will test not because she wants to break you, but because she wants to see if she can trust you. Trust your frame, your mission, your ability to stay the course. But most men fail these tests. They panic when she grows silent. They explain themselves endlessly when she doubts them. They trade their boundaries for her temporary approval. And every time they do, they lose not just her respect, but their own self-respect. She is not the storm, brother. She is the weather. And you? You are supposed to be the sky, vast, unmovable, eternal. But you forgot this. You mistook her attention for validation, her affection for permission to be yourself. That is why you fell. Are you ready now to face the hardest truth? That the real betrayal was never hers. It was yours. You want to call her manipulative. You want to say she used you, drained you, broke you. But let's cut through the lies. She didn't betray you. You betrayed yourself. She didn't force you to give up your mission. She didn't put a gun to your head and demand your time, your purpose, your soul. No, you volunteered. You handed over your crown because you believed it would make her stay. You sold your backbone for affection and called it love. The truth is brutal, but you need to hear it. You didn't love her. You loved how you felt in her gaze. You were addicted to the reflection she gave you, the illusion that you were enough because she smiled. That's not love, brother. That's dependence. That's weakness dressed up as romance. She didn't seduce you. You seduced yourself. You convinced yourself that if you worked harder, bought more, and bent lower, she would never leave. But Machiavelli warned us long ago. Men are driven by two principal motives, either by love or by fear. You led with love, soft, blind, desperate love, and lost both her respect and your own authority. The hardest pill to swallow is this. She only mirrored the weakness you already carried. She didn't create it. She simply revealed it. And once she saw it, she couldn't unsee it. Women don't stay with men they can move like pawns. They stay with men who hold their ground like kings. Stop blaming her for being who she is. Her tests were not cruelty, they were clarity. She was asking without words, are you the man you claim to be, or are you just another boy looking for approval? You failed not because you weren't enough, but because you abandoned yourself. The moment you prioritized her moods over your mission, her comfort over your convictions, you ceased to be the man she first admired. You became her pet, her project, her emotional crutch. The good news? This is not the end. This is the beginning. Because the moment you take responsibility, the moment you stop pointing the finger and start looking in the mirror, you can rebuild. But if you keep blaming her, you'll never rise. So, brother, let me ask you, are you ready to reclaim your crown? Power does not live in persuasion. Power lives in the silence of a man who does not beg. A woman cannot truly respect a man who cannot walk away. It's not about arrogance, not about playing games. It's about sovereignty. Think about the entrepreneur who lost everything. His mistake wasn't loving her. His mistake was needing her more than himself. The moment he became afraid to lose her, she held the power. And a man who fears loss becomes a man who can be owned. Walking away is not rejection. It is declaration. It says, I am whole, with or without you. I choose you, but I do not need you. And that is the paradox. The very moment a man no longer needs a woman is the moment she feels his true gravity. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He wrote, He who becomes master of a city accustomed to freedom and does not destroy it may expect to be destroyed by it. Replace city with a woman's will, and you'll see the brutal truth. You cannot conquer her by giving her free rein over your identity. You must lead yourself first. Modern men believe that proving love means constant availability, endless reassurance, soft words at every turn. But what does that breed? Contempt. Why? Because she no longer feels the challenge, the unpredictability, the power of a man who stands apart. When you walk away, you are not punishing her. You are protecting your essence. You are saying, my mission, my standards, my peace come first. A woman cannot manipulate a man who is unafraid of her absence. And that man, paradoxically, becomes the only man she cannot replace. Look around. Men who are endlessly accommodating are forgotten. Men who live with fire, who refuse to bend for approval, are remembered. You don't win respect by chasing. You win respect by being willing to lose everything except yourself. So I ask you, can you master the art of walking away? Can you stand so firm in your values that her tests, her storms, her silence no longer shake you? A man's life does not begin when he is loved. It begins when he chooses his path without hesitation, without apology. The mountain does not bow to the wind, and neither should you. Solitude is not weakness. It is the forge where men are made. The entrepreneur who lost everything to her forgot this truth. He abandoned his mountain. He allowed her whispers to pull him from the summit he once climbed. And when his mission collapsed, so did her desire. Because the feminine does not follow a man who abandons his own direction. Napoleon once said, "Greatness is nothing unless it is lasting." He knew that men who chase comfort over purpose end up hollow. You see, women do not admire a man for his sacrifices to please them. They admire the man who builds, who creates, who ascends, even if that ascent is lonely. Your mission is not a side story. It is your entire spine. Without it, you bend. Without it, you become prey to the approval of others. And a man who lives for approval is already dead inside. When you walk the solo path, you don't walk away from love. You walk toward clarity. You begin to see the illusions for what they are. You stop trying to be the perfect partner and start becoming the man who is unshakable. The man who can face rejection and still keep climbing. The man who does not crumble just because she turns cold. Yes, it is lonely at first. It feels like exile. But exile is where kings are forged. The crowd, the noise, the constant need to be chosen. That is where weak men rot. A man's true freedom begins the moment he chooses his own mission over the comfort of being wanted. So ask yourself, are you ready to stand on your mountain alone? Are you ready to cut away every illusion and live by the discipline of your own vision? Because only when you do this will you stop losing everything for love. Only then will love, if it comes, orbit you, not rule you. You didn't lose her. You lost the part of yourself that believed you needed her to be whole. That was never love. It was a quiet form of slavery. Machiavelli warned us. The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. And the same applies to you. Look at the people you let into your life. Did they build you, or did they chip away at you? Did they challenge your strength, or did they seduce you into weakness? The entrepreneur's true tragedy wasn't her betrayal. It was that he abandoned his mission, the very fire that made him a man, for the mirage of affection. He gave away his crown and then wondered why no one called him king. Understand this. A man who cannot stand alone will never stand tall beside anyone. Women respect presence, not pleading. They are drawn to gravity, not grasping hands. And if you don't have that gravity, they will leave. Not out of cruelty, but because nature always tests for strength. So take this pain and let it forge you. Build again. Not for her, not for them, but for the man you were born to be. If these words cut you, good. They are meant to. This is the mirror you've avoided for too long. If you found value in this truth, share it, subscribe, and support the channel. Because men need this fire, now more than ever.